Good morning, everyone, and it's an honor to be here today to address all of you at the India EU Aviation Summit. It's an occasion that I was looking forward to very much being with all of you in person, but unfortunately, COVID has struck me once again for the third time, and due to my indisposition, I'm forced to attend the summit virtually. The summit is a great opportunity for our friends in various governments, as well as the aviation and aerospace industries, to come together and explore areas of greater cooperation. India and the EU have shared strong historical relations, which continue to grow today on the back of robust physical, digital, and people to people connectivity, aided, of course, by the aviation industry. India's flagship initiatives, such as the Smart City Mission, Make in India, Digital India, Startup India, and the Swachh Bharat Clean India mission, are successful today thanks in part to the continued support from the EU. In the aviation sector itself, many EU players such as Airbus, Rolls-Royce, Zurich Airport International, Safran, and many more have established significant presences in India. The summit is being organized at a critical juncture where globally the aviation sector has emerged from the dark shadows of COVID-induced disruptions. Thankfully, the period is now behind us, and to our great happiness, we are now clocking new highs every day in passenger traffic. India has been leading the recovery path, where no major airline was grounded due to the disruption, but instead, new airlines such as Akasa have taken birth. We have recently hit a milestone of 456,000 domestic passengers per day, even during non-peak season. Most airlines are witnessing passenger load factors in the range of the upper 90s as compared to the pre-COVID average of the 80s. This trend has rather been in the making since the last decade, where under the Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi's leadership, our sector has undergone a tectonic transformation like never before. Today, India is the third largest domestic aviation market, with very robust regional connectivity growth in number and size of airlines, competitive airfares, and infrastructure. Whereas in 2004, the entire domestic market comprised of just 14 million passengers, the market today has grown almost 10 times. India will have more than 140 million passengers in FY24 alone, growing at a CAGR of 14.5%. Further, in the 6 years leading to FY 2020, the number of international passengers has also grown at a CAGR of 6.1%. The growth has replicated itself across the spectrum due to a conducive policy environment, emphasis on capex, and novel schemes like the regional connectivity scheme of UDAN. As a result, whereas till 2014, 74 airports were operational in India, today we have operationalized another 74 airports, heliports, and waterdromes, and have achieved a 460 million passengers per annum capacity and a 6.91 million tons per annum cargo capacity. Today, India has 30 international airports and 11 custom airports, catering to international passengers, and has direct connectivity with 47 countries for over 89 destinations. We've also created an indigenous aircraft leasing sector consisting of lessors and financiers, resilient in the International Financial Services Centre (IFSC) at the Gift City in Gujarat. And we have provided through the Gift City a range of incentives, such as 100% tax holiday for a period of 10 consecutive years out of a block of the first 15 years. As far as India and the EU are concerned, strong air connectivity has been the backbone of our relations. I'm glad to note that of the 27 EU countries, India has separate air service agreements with each member state except one. India accords the highest priority to its relationship with the EU. And therefore, whereas India, as a matter of policy, follows the substantial ownership and effective control process, which implies that any carrier designated by a country must be substantially owned and effectively controlled by the designated country and or its nationals. However, for the EU member states, India has agreed to a special dispensation. India has signed a horizontal agreement with the EU, which allows the member states of the EU to designate their carriers to operate between India and EU countries, provided that the majority ownership of the carrier is vested with the EU member states and or their nationals. The horizontal agreement was signed on the 28th of September 2008 in Marseille during the Honourable Minister of France's visit. In addition, we have open sky agreements with 6 EU member states. As I had mentioned earlier, India has emerged as one of the fastest growing aviation markets in the world. There is a growing appetite for air travel in the country and outside the country. Within this ecosystem, EU has been one of the major hubs for aviation manufacturing. There is an immediate need to leverage our complementarities for our mutual benefits. Manufacturers from the EU can gain from the ready market in human resources, a favorable policy environment, and the growing call for encouraging local manufacturing. I'm glad that many steps in this regard have been taken between Indian and EU companies. For instance, TASL, Tata Advanced Systems Limited, and Airbus Defence and Space have launched the C295 transport aircraft manufacturing facility in Vadodara in Gujarat at a cost of almost $3 billion. Safran has also set up an electrical harness manufacturing facility in Hyderabad and another facility to produce components for use in their new generation LEAP aircraft engines. Safran has also announced an investment of $150 million for manufacture of aircraft engines in India. We are also aware of the recent $70 billion order for 470 aircraft placed by Air India. A significant portion of this order is from Airbus, about 250 planes. I do sincerely hope that these initiatives shall contribute towards strengthening our relationship further. I would also like to highlight that the Government of India, under the visionary leadership of Honourable Prime Minister, has taken several steps to promote aircraft manufacturing in the country. We have reformed the regulatory environment to make it as conducive as possible for MROs through reduced GST rates on MRO services from 18 to 5% and allowing 100% FDI, foreign direct investment, into the sector. New MRO guidelines have also been rolled out for rationalization of the charges leviable on MRO services for ease of doing business. I would urge industry players from the EU to tap into these opportunities and become a part of the fastest growing aviation market in the world. In a complex international environment, the EU and the Republic of India, both unions of diversity, sharing values of democracy, should strive to preserve rules-based international order and multilateralism. We can jointly contribute to a safer, cleaner, and more stable world. We also share a common goal of combating climate change, and therefore we must come together to tackle the challenge. Although the share of emissions from aviation sector is a paltry 2%, it has been the subject of intense scrutiny. Yet our industry has taken proactive steps to minimize the carbon footprint. We all know that at the international level, ICAO is working very effectively in this regard and has adopted the goal of carbon neutral growth by 2020 in the form of the CORSIA agreement, the carbon offsetting and reduction scheme for aviation. It also has put forward an LTAG, a long-term global aspirational goal of net zero carbon emissions by 2050. Even though India stands by the principle of CBDR, the common but differentiated responsibility, India has been leading the way in initiating steps for mitigating emissions from its aviation industry. And I would like to share some of these with you. We are encouraging airports to use 100% green energy by 2024 and achieve net zero by 2030. 25 Airports Authority of India airports are already using 100% green energy. Our target is to make another 121 airports carbon neutral by 2025. We've also mandated the use of renewable energy as part of the bid documents for the upcoming airports. We're also working towards encouraging the use of SAF, sustainable aviation fuel. Some Indian airline operators have already conducted demonstration flights using biofuel blended with ATF. In this context, I will urge the EU players to partner with India in developing adaptive technologies and support the objective of tackling emissions from the aviation industry. Over the course of the summit, I also request all participants to deliberate on how all of us can focus on collaborating, developing best practices, and leveraging synergies. I would like to end with a quote from Henry Ford, and I quote, "Coming together is a beginning. Staying together is progress. And working together is success." Unquote. Thank you very much, and I wish the conference very productive deliberations. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.